You're listening to Women in Wellness, a program to help you create gorgeous growth for your blissful business in health and wellness. I'm Dr. Gabby, holistic health expert and founder of Women in Wellness, a one-of-a-kind course and community designed to empower and inform you about how to build a purposeful and profitable holistic business. And I'm very excited for today's interview. I've invited a terrific guest, Ritamarie Loscalzo. Ritamarie is the founder of the Institute of Nutritional Endocrinology, a licensed doctor of chiropractic, a certified clinical nutritionist, and living foods chef. She's trained and certified hundreds of others in the art of using palate-pleasing, whole, fresh food as medicine. Dr. Ritamarie is also a best-selling author, speaker with over 23 years of clinical experience. And I was just telling her before we got started how much I love her bookshelf in the background and all of the academic texts and binders and everything. So tell me, how did you get interested in nutrition and endocrinology specifically? What was the sort of entry point for you?
Well, the entry point for me was kind of like a lot of us in the holistic health field. It was health crisis, and it was health crisis of my own that initially got me into it. And having been to, my 20s, early like 24, 25, having been to doctors and gone to, well, what's wrong with my sinuses? Why do I have brain fog? Why do I have stomach problems? Why am I exhausted? Why do I have to live on caffeine and sugar and all this? And got the answers, here's some ulcer medication. You don't have an ulcer, but oh, by the way, it might help. See ya, have a good life. I decided to take things into my own hands. I kind of had a feeling that the stomach stuff was related to what I ate, but I had no clue that all the rest was also related. But I figured at least I could stop having doubled over pain whenever I ate and didn't have to take ulcer medication for the rest of my life. Then maybe I'd be able to, make my way back to feeling whole again. And so that started my journey. And that was back in the 1980s when the internet didn't exist.
I remember.
Right?
Yes.
And there were bookstores and the health section was about this big. And there were maybe, 10 books total. So I read them all. And then I went to the library and got the 10 books there and read those all and just started my journey and experimenting. And long story short, learned about detoxification, food allergies, gut dysbiosis, and the like, adrenal fatigue, and just went about and figured out how to heal myself. I was able to find a couple of MDs along the way back then that had some interest in nutrition. So that was helpful. But there was nobody that could really take me by the hand and guide me back. I really had to figure it out for myself. And after a couple of years of doing that and finally getting my health back, I said, I need to make it easier for other people. This is ridiculous. And I'd always had that diagnostician brain. So the academic brain's always been there, but I was in computer science at the time. I was a computer analyst.
Wow. So, I didn't get that part of your story.
Oh,
Was that like undergrad studies or something?
Undergrad and grad. I have a master's in computer science.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I was working jobs like that, and and math. I had a double major in math. So I really loved all that stuff.
Wow.
I had a minor in writing, but which helps now. But the thing is that I just know how to solve problems. So I didn't know the hardware. See, I set out okay, this is just a new set of hardware and software. I just have to learn the hardware and software so I can figure it out. So I did. I learned the anatomy and the physiology and all about the biochemistry and nutrition and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I could just have to step by step my way through it. So I thought I want to make this easier for people. So I went back to school, decided to go the chiropractic route because I was living in California at the time. There were no naturopathic schools. Naturopathy wasn't licensed. Didn't feel like going 8 years of batting my head against the wall fighting medicine. And I was 30 years old at the time by then. So I said, I'll just do this. So I went to chiropractic, and then at the same time, I was doing a master's degree program through the University of Bridgeport, a satellite program. So I was doing 2 degrees at the same time, graduated with my doctorate and my master's, and set out to change the world.
That's so remarkable. Where do you get this energy from? I feel like I'm talking to you now, and you've been doing this stuff for 25 years, and you seem just as excited about it now as
more.
So where is this passion and excitement coming from? Is it just that you love it? You love serving people, or what?
Yes, and there's more. So my senior year of chiropractic school. I'm about to graduate. I'm in my internship. I'm all excited. 2 to 3 months. 2 months away from graduation. My mother suddenly drops dead of a heart attack, age 56. And I was devastated. And I'd been talking to her about all that I'd been learning and all the things I thought she could do to help herself, but she wasn't interested. She just wasn't interested. She was not diagnosed with heart disease. She was not morbidly obese. She had no diagnosis and was on no medication. She'd had a skin cancer removed. She'd had a gallbladder attack so she had arthritis. So she had the walking wounded type of symptoms, but she wasn't diagnosed as having been a sick person, right? And suddenly she's gone of a heart attack. And how many other people are like that, right? Where their first sign of heart attack is they die. And it's because their practitioners aren't telling them, you got to change things, right? Don't wait till it's a heart attack. Don't wait till you have a liver disease. Let's just change. And so I was frustrated that I couldn't help her. And I just got passionate. So as soon as I got out of school, I got licensed. I was going to start my own practice, get my own office, change the world. And of course, it doesn't always work that way. You don't have people flocking to you and suddenly, you're helping everybody in the world. So it was a process. And it was also a process of learning the stuff they don't teach you in school. And that was the biggest learning, right? How do you actually work with the people? How do you motivate them and inspire them to actually make the changes they do? How do you get into all the clinical labs? That was at the very infancy of functional medicine. I attended the second ever functional medicine conference. I went to all Jeffrey Bland's stuff before that while I was in school and while I was, first graduated. And so it was really early on in this whole thing we now call functional medicine, which has thousands and tens of thousands of people in it. But back then I was, one of the trailblazers. So I wasn't able to help my mom. 2 years later, same thing happens to my dad. So he's a little older. He's in his early 60s, but it's like, whoa. And they wouldn't listen to me. The rest of my family wouldn't listen to me. And I was like, I've got to be able to do more. And so I started, reaching out. How do I get out in the community? How do I start doing health fairs? How do I, what was it? Before the internet, there wasn't a lot you could do to reach more people, except I invited people to come to my house and I would do classes in my living room. I would, rent a space here or there. I was just trying to get the word out. Like, hey guys, it's all in your own hands. There's no magic bullet. There's no cure. There's no race for the cure. There's no donate your dollars for the cure. There's no cure. The cure is here. The cure is here. And what you do and everything you do every day in your life changes that. And that's your cure. Don't wait for a cure, do the prevention and create that. So anyway, I got real excited about that. And then it started to learn about internet back, in the early, 2006 to 7, 8 type of thing. And I started doing bigger classes and I started to look at online stuff and I got really excited. Okay, now I can reach lots of people. Now I can really reach lots of people. And as I'm starting to do that and get excited and taking classes in internet marketing and all this, my sister gets lymphoma, my younger sister, 6 years younger than me. And she dies within 3 months, going through the traditional medical crap. She wouldn't listen to me. She was morbidly obese. None of the doctors told her fatigue for the last 3 years was a sign that something was wrong and she had to change her diet. And, you'd go to her house and there was nothing but packaged food and Tums and all the over-the-counter medications because she was obviously suffering. But nobody said anything. And so that's when I said, no, I have to teach this beyond just teaching it to people. So one-on-one, you reach this many people. You get out on the internet and you do big group programs, you reach this many people. But when you work with and teach practitioners, you reach
it's like a ripple effect,
the
right?
Ripple effect, the exponential effect of the number of people that you can reach. And so I started teaching classes online in about 2008-ish, and nobody else was teaching health courses online. You'd think I'd be the famous one on the internet that's most famous for everything because I was in the early days of it before other health practitioners were doing classes, but I guess I'm just slow and getting ramped up. But anyway, but I started doing that.
I think you're pretty big. I mean, even before I met you at the conference, I had heard through some of my clients or health coaches about the different kinds of trainings that you're doing. And
good. I'm glad it's
no.
But I started doing this in 2008. I started my very first online class was just a cleanse, but the next one was something I called Balance Your Body Blueprint. And it was basically, I taught people how to read their own labs and how to actually find the things the doctors were missing. And I remember distinctly having people on calls and finding out that people had Hashimoto's, and they probably had it for the last 20 years or 15 years because they'd been complaining. And we actually got the testing done that they needed. And I would just explain what that meant. I didn't diagnose anybody. I was like, oh, you have autoimmune antibodies against your thyroid, because they just did the tests I told them to do. And they'd say, what does that mean? I explained all that stuff, and they go, oh, does that mean, is that why all the anemia they've been treating me for 15 years isn't working? Is that why? I'm like, yeah, your body's attacking your thyroid. And so I remember distinctly one night we had 3 people on one call that we learned that about. I'm like, I have to teach these doctors. I mean, they have to learn. They have to learn how to do this, right? They're missing these people that they can be helping. And so we had tremendous success. It was like 110 people went through that course with me, and tremendous success.
And they were physicians? The ones?
No. Oh. Well, they weren't. They were just people who were like so frustrated and discouraged and motivated that they wanted to learn and take their health in their own hands. But amongst them were, so there were chiropractors and nutritionists and health coaches. And I didn't know that when I was teaching them, and I'd have them write to me and go, how do you know all this stuff? I want to learn what you know. I want to teach this to my clients. How can I, learn with you? How can I study with you? And enough people ask me to study with me, and I'm like, oh, I don't have a course or anything, that I decided to create a course. So in 2012, I created my first practitioner course. My very first one was insulin resistance, because I was teaching a very successful reverse your insulin resistance program and detect it before it actually is diagnosable. You can tell that it's going there. Like I have this thing called pre-insulin resistance. I teach people how to find for themselves, but I decided to teach that to practitioners. So I had that course for the consumers, and then I decided to teach how to teach that to the practitioners. It was wildly successful. People loved it.
The thing that stands out to me in your story, though, is how devastating and terrible it is that you could reach hundreds and thousands of people, but when you wanted to change the people that were closest to you, that you couldn't make those changes. Have you learned anything since then, since your parents, since your sister? Have you learned anything about how to facilitate that change? I mean, can we change our parents and our brothers and sisters? And
the way we change our parents and brothers and sisters is we send them to another practitioner who has the licensure that they respect, mm-hmm. and who tells them the same things we tell them. Mm-hmm. Right? I remember my mother-in-law telling her all this stuff, and she'd go, oh, that's nice, but she wouldn't do anything. Margarine's not good. Go back to butter, buy organic butter, whatever. But she wouldn't do it. And then 3 years later, she read it in the newspaper that margarine is not the health food we thought it was. And that it was, she said, and I told my friends, my daughter-in-law told me that 3 to 5 years ago. And I said, yeah, but you didn't listen to me till you read it in the bloody newspaper. So it's like getting their authority figures to tell them. That's how you reach your parents. Some people are lucky and their parents are just open to it. But I found that that's one way is really important. That's why I'm so passionate about what we're doing to try to facilitate practitioners to learn.
Right. And one of the things that you say about your work is that you help practitioners to create a waiting list practice. So what does that mean, and how do you help them to do that?
Generally, I mean, I do talk to them a little bit about marketing and stuff, but it's by getting results. It's by having people come who haven't gotten results anywhere. Like the person with that hidden insulin resistance that's not diabetic, that's not overtly there, but you turn them around and suddenly they drop all this weight and they reverse things. And I had one person who she signed up for an insulin resistance program and got that under control. And guess what happened in the meantime? All her digestive stuff went away, and her Hashimoto's out of 50 years. So she went off all her thyroid medication after 50 years. It was pronounced by her doctor as cured, misdiagnosed. Misdiagnosed, that's what she was announced, not cured, misdiagnosed. Yeah, so basically you get the results, and then people come and they come and they come and they come. That's how I initially built built my practice was people go, oh my God, my mother's been dealing with this for 20 years too. Let's get her in. So you basically do it. It's about that. And it's all about not being the best kept secret, knowing how to speak to people and how to get out there and how to take your knowledge, because I give people as part of the program is done for you presentations that they can take out in their community and, go do them at community centers and churches so they become known as the expert in that. I had one person, she joined my nutritional endocrinology training program and she mentioned it to some of the people in her community. Well, this got around and she started getting calls. Oh, you're the hormone expert. Could you come speak to my group? And she's like, I'm like 5 weeks into the program and I'm hardly a hormone expert, but let me go do it. And I have lots of mentoring with them on calls and I teach them how to get to the root cause. Calm down if you've never heard about that disease before. It doesn't matter. We're going to learn the mechanisms, how the body works, how the biochemistry works, how it all works, so that it doesn't matter what they've been labeled. You're going to be able to dig and go, what's really going on? Why is that happening? Why is that happening? So that's what I teach, in addition to a very comprehensive biochemistry, anatomy, and all that stuff, nutritional science, food religions, all that. But I teach it in a way that I don't teach all the crap that we learned in school that you didn't need to know. You just had to memorize for the boards, right?
Like the capital of every state and
yeah. But that version of that in medicine, right?
Yeah.
That version of that in medicine, the tubercles on the different bones, and
the mitochondria.
And we teach mitochondria though. But
you do?
Krebs cycle is super important because most people are fatigued, and if you want to understand the underpinnings of fatigue, you have to understand how the mitochondria work. But I teach it from a practical clinical method. So it's like, okay, this is the Krebs cycle and things go around and look at all these spots. Look at what happens if this person is eating refined flour. They don't have the riboflavin and the niacin to make FAD and NAD to take them through the Krebs cycle and make energy. Look at what happens if they have low stomach acid and they can't make those amino acids to be able to help them through. Look what happens if they have insulin resistance and they can't even get the bloody sugar into the cell, let alone get the mitochondria to work. So we look at it on a how does it work basis, and they can figure it out. They don't have to know the disease. They don't have to memorize the disease and every single disease and what the drug is that goes with it. Like medical school, they learn how the disease actually manifests, like what goes wrong, what goes right in all the body systems, what can go wrong, and then what can you do to get in and balance it.
I think it's really interesting that you said that. So one of the women, she started getting recognized locally as an expert and she was kind of freaked out. And I see that a lot with the women that I coach, that kind of owning that expert status or, being able to kind of self-promote in that way, that can be it can be somewhat, it takes like a shift, like a mind shift or something.
It does.
And becoming more confident and empowered, right?
And that's what I talk about when I teach, my practitioners. I want them to become competent so they can become confident. You can't be confident if you're not competent. Right? I'm not very confident that I could open up my computer and start, figuring out which things I have to do to make the screen work better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't have that competence. But if I had that confidence, I'd be totally confident. So I feel confident when somebody says to me, these are the things that are happening. I don't care what their diagnosis is. I'm not going to put them in a box. I'm going to understand the mechanisms that are going on so I know what's going wrong, so I can start to look at where the problem might be. And the problem might be way far away from the presenting symptoms.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And getting grounded in that competence really helps you to, like you said, serve the people, have them get results, and then have that be the basis of your work and your reputation, is that you're so effective at understanding that underlying stuff that people they come to you because they know that they're going to get the results that they need when they come to you, which I think is, I feel like that approach has a lot of integrity, whereas you see a lot of marketing and stuff where, people are being invited to all kinds of programs and trainings and whatever, and it's not really clear, what you're getting or who you're going to be when you finish. But what you're describing to me, it sounds like it just has so much integrity and so much, like scientific evidence and efficacy, and that it's really helping a lot of people.
It's helping a tremendous amount of people. And I know like this, these people that would come in and go, this is the one that was the hormone expert in her community and started speaking and started just using the presentation that I gave her. And then she'd modify it a little bit. And people were like, oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so wonderful. And then they come to her with different issues. And one person came to her because they were about to lose their thyroid gland. They were scheduled for 2 weeks away from surgery. And she asked some questions and she came to me, she says, I'm going to speak to this person on Thursday. What questions should I ask? How do I know if it's preventable or not? Because she doesn't want to do it. And we walked through it. And I, gave her the questions and we went through, and she came back and said she doesn't have cancer. And she's willing to wait. They just want to take it out because she has some nodules and her mother had nodules too. So why don't they just take it out? So she worked with her, but she didn't work directly on her thyroid right there. She found all these things out of balance in her gut and her blood sugar. So she starts working there, and she got the right testing done so she could tell if there was a conversion issue or antibodies or whatever. But she started working there, and 2 months later, the woman had lost all this weight. She was feeling great, better than she had in her life, and no surgery.
Amazing. So what's next for Dr. Ritamarie? I mean, where's this going? Like, is this that you want to have training for all functional medicine practitioners? Is it, what's the vision?
My big vision is that this is what's taught in medical school. So somehow getting in there, and I'm looking at, we get a lot of medical doctors coming through our programs and say, why didn't we learn this in medical school, right? Why didn't we learn this? So my big vision is for the world is that this is what's taught in medical school, that every single medical practitioner goes through this kind of logical thought. They're not taught the this for that approach. The pharmacology is used for urgent situations, which is awesome when you can save a life. But they're taught to do what we do, what I teach. And so my goal is to do that. So I'm doing it now by we have a 2-year certification program in nutritional endocrinology. We have a 12-week gut mastery program. We have a 12-week insulin resistance mastery program. And we're reaching lots of people. People are starting to find us. They're finding us on the Facebook, they're finding us on the internet, but you know what? They're finding us mostly by word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Like one person, I'll meet people and they'll go, oh, one of my patients, knows about you, or one of my patients is in your program, or that kind of thing. And they just start sharing that because they're getting amazing results. The practitioners are with their clients. They're finally able to feel confident having people come in, because it's not just about, like, so many people need just the foundational, to start at least, the foundational nutrition and lifestyle, of course, and people are well trained in that, but it doesn't always work. Like, not everybody can do the same diet as everybody else. Somebody needs a little more fat, somebody needs a little more sugar, somebody has a histamine sensitivity, another one has an oxalate sensitivity. So I teach them how to help to really personalize that piece and be able to help so many more people.
So cool. Well, I'm going to hold that vision for you, that we get it into all the medical schools. In the meantime, if people want to do the certification or want to learn from you, how can they do that now?
Well, there's 2 ways. I have a little success kit that's out there and they can download it. It's just a few videos to get an idea of what I do. And then you can apply for us for the program. And that's at, inesuccesskit.com. inesuccesskit.com. But then if they just want to see what the program's about, it's at neptapply.com. Okay. We're about to put a new video up on that site, so hopefully it'll be up by the time your listeners get there, to really explain that vision and that passion that I have for this.
Right. I'm so just overwhelmed with the knowledge and integrity of what you're doing. And I'm super grateful that you were able to share some of that with us. I hope that you reach as many people as possible with your teachings.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. This has been great.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. You can join the Women in Wellness Club at women-in-wellness.com.